My name is Grace Moore and I'm 23 years old. Right now I'm pressed against the cold brick wall of an alley, heart hammering so hard I'm sure they can hear it from 10 feet away. The three men blocking my only exit are laughing, but there's nothing funny about the way they're looking at me. "Come on, sweetheart," the tall one with the crooked nose says, stepping closer. "We just want to talk." I clutch my backpack tighter, feeling the sharp edge of my laptop dig into my ribs through the fabric. Everything I own is in this bag, which isn't much, but it's mine. The rain that's been threatening all evening finally starts to fall, cold drops hitting my face like tiny warnings. "I don't have any money," I say, hating how my voice shakes. It's true. The last $20 I had went to a gas station sandwich this morning, and even that felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. Who said anything about money? Crooked nose grins and my stomach drops to my shoes. If you've ever felt completely alone in this world, abandoned by everyone who was supposed to protect you, drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you're ready to hear how a chance encounter in the darkest moment of my life led to finding not just safety, but the kind of love that rebuilds you from the ground up. I've been on my own for 6 months now, ever since everything fell apart back home in Tennessee. I thought I'd learn to read dangerous situations, to avoid places and people like this. But desperation makes you stupid. When the homeless shelter was full and the library closed, this alley behind the coffee shop seemed like the safest place to spend the night. I was wrong. The second man, shorter but broader, starts moving to my left. They're trying to box me in and there's nowhere to go. The brick wall is solid behind me, and the narrow alley stretches endlessly in both directions, too far to run before they'd catch me. "Please," I whisper, and I hate myself for begging. "Just leave me alone." "Can't do that, honey. You're in our spot now." My fingers find the small canister of pepper spray clipped to my keychain, a gift from my college roommate before everything went to hell. But my hands are shaking so badly I can barely work the clasp. Then, like something out of a movie, headlights sweep across the mouth of the alley. A sleek black car slows, then stops. The engine idles for a moment that stretches like eternity, and I hold my breath. The driver's door opens. A man steps out, tall, dressed in a dark coat that looks expensive even in the dim streetlight. He doesn't rush, doesn't shout. He just stands there for a moment, taking in the scene with the kind of calm that makes dangerous men nervous. "Gentlemen," he says, his voice carrying easily down the alley. British accent, refined but with an edge underneath. "I think you're needed elsewhere." Crooked nose turns, annoyed. "Mind your business, mate. This doesn't concern you." The stranger takes a step forward and something about his posture, relaxed but ready, makes all three men shift uncomfortably. Actually, it does. The young lady appears distressed. "She's fine," the broad one growls. "Aren't you, sweetheart?" "I'm not fine. I'm terrified and cold and haven't eaten a real meal in 2 days. But I can't seem to make my voice work." The stranger's eyes find mine across the space between us. They're dark, unreadable, but something in his expression tells me he sees exactly what's happening here. "Grace," he says, and I'm so shocked he knows my name that I almost drop my bag. "Come here." I don't question how he knows who I am. I don't question anything. I just push off the wall and walk toward him, legs unsteady but moving. The three men part reluctantly, but they don't try to stop me. When I reach the stranger, he places a gentle hand on my elbow, guiding me toward his car. "Get in," he says quietly. "We'll sort this out." I slide into the passenger seat, and the warmth hits me like a physical thing. Leather interior, soft music playing low, the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something that might be rain or might be safety. He gets in beside me and locks the doors with a quiet click. Through the windshield, I watch the three men finally slouch away, disappearing back into whatever hole they crawled out of. "Thank you," I whisper, and my voice cracks on the words. He turns to look at me properly for the first time. Dark hair, sharp features, eyes that seem to see too much. Mid-30s, maybe, with the kind of presence that suggests he's used to being listened to. "Alexander Blackwood," he says, offering his hand. "And you're Grace Moore." I stare at him. How do you? You applied for a position at my company 3 weeks ago. Executive assistant. I've been meaning to call you for an interview. He starts the engine and the car purrs to life. Though I must say, finding you in an alley wasn't quite how I'd planned to make contact. My mind reels. I'd sent out dozens of applications in the past month, most of them to companies so far above my qualifications they might as well have been on the moon. I barely remember applying to Blackwood Industries, but the name sounds familiar now. You were going to call me? Still am, actually. But perhaps we should get you somewhere warm first. When did you last eat? The question hits me like a slap. I try to remember. The gas station sandwich this morning, a few crackers yesterday, nothing the day before that. I don't need. He gives me a look that says he's not buying it. There's a cafe nearby that stays open late. We can talk there. I should say no. I should thank him for the rescue and ask him to drop me at the nearest shelter. I don't know this man, and every survival instinct I've developed over the past 6 months is screaming that getting into cars with strangers, even helpful ones, is exactly how people like me disappear. But I'm so tired. Tired of being afraid, tired of being cold, tired of pretending I'm not one missed meal away from complete desperation. And there's something about Alexander Blackwood that feels solid. Like he's the kind of man who keeps his word, whatever that word might be. Okay, I say softly. Thank you. The cafe he takes me to is small, warm, and mostly empty except for a few students with laptops and a couple holding hands over coffee cups. Alexander chooses a table in the back corner and orders for both of us, soup and sandwiches for me, just coffee for himself. So, he says when the waitress leaves, tell me about yourself, Grace Moore. Where do I even start? With the full scholarship to Vanderbilt that was supposed to change everything? With my mother's cancer diagnosis in my junior year? With the medical bills that ate through our savings and then some? With her death 6 months ago, followed by the discovery that she'd taken out loans against the house to pay for treatments that didn't work anyway? I graduated from Vanderbilt last spring, I say instead. English literature, magna cum laude. I've been looking for work since your mother passed away. I look up sharply. How do you? It was on your resume. Listed her as a reference, then crossed it out. Doesn't take a detective to fill in the blanks. His voice is gentle, not prying. I'm sorry for your loss. The soup arrives, thick and hot and smelling like everything I've been craving for weeks. I try to eat slowly to maintain some dignity, but I haven't had a warm meal in days and my body has other ideas. Alexander doesn't comment on my obvious hunger. Instead, he talks about his company, a consulting firm that works with nonprofits and small businesses. It sounds legitimate, successful, exactly the kind of place where someone like me might actually have a chance. The position is challenging, he says. I travel frequently, often with little notice. My schedule is unpredictable. The person who works for me needs to be adaptable, discreet, and capable of thinking on their feet. That sounds perfect, I say, and I mean it. Challenging work sounds like heaven compared to the alternative. There's one complication. He leans back in his chair, studying me. The role requires a significant amount of trust. I deal with sensitive information, confidential matters. I need someone I can rely on completely. I understand. Do you? His dark eyes seem to look right through me. Because trust, real trust, isn't something that can be built overnight. It takes time, patience, shared experiences. I set down my spoon, meeting his gaze. Mr. Blackwood, 6 months ago I had a future planned out to the last detail. College, career, maybe graduate school eventually. Then life happened, and now I'm homeless, unemployed, and eating charity soup with a stranger who rescued me from an alley. Trust might take time to build, but desperation teaches you to recognize integrity pretty quickly. And you have it. He's quiet for a long moment, then smiles, just a slight curve of his mouth, but it transforms his entire face. Very well. There's one more thing you should know about the position. What's that? It comes with accommodation. A small apartment above the office. Nothing fancy, but it's safe, warm, and private. The salary is $60,000 a year plus benefits. I nearly choke on my soup. $60,000 is more than I dared to hope for, even with my degree. And an apartment. I haven't had a real home since the bank foreclosed on Mom's house. Why? I ask. You don't even know me. For all you know, I could be unreliable or dishonest or… Grace. His voice stops my spiral before it can really begin. Do you want the job? I think about the alley, about the 3 men and the cold brick wall. I think about the homeless shelter with its waiting lists and time limits. I think about the stack of rejection letters in my backpack, growing thicker every day. Yes, I whisper. I want the job. Then it's yours. We'll start Monday morning if that suits you. Yes. Monday is perfect. He signals for the check, then pulls out a business card and writes something on the back. This is the office address. The apartment entrance is around the side. I'll meet you there at 9 tomorrow morning to show you around and get you settled. I take the card with hands that are finally steady. Mr. Blackwood. Alexander. I don't know how to thank you. Just be good at the job, he says simply. That's thanks enough. He drives me to a small hotel near the office, pays for the room despite my protests, and tells me to get a good night's sleep. As I watch his car disappear into the rain, I realize I'm crying, not from fear this time, but from something that might actually be hope. I'd given up on believing in rescue, in second chances, in the kindness of strangers. But Alexander Blackwood had appeared in that alley like an answer to prayers I'd been too proud to say out loud. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, or whether I'll be any good at this job he's offered me. I don't know if his trust in me is misplaced, or if I'm setting myself up for another kind of heartbreak. All I know is that for the first time in months, I'm not afraid of what comes next. The apartment above Blackwood Industries is small but perfect. 1 bedroom, a kitchenette, a living area with tall windows that let in streams of morning light. It's furnished simply but tastefully, and when I run my hand over the soft throw blanket draped across the couch, I have to sit down because my legs suddenly feel weak. This is mine. Not temporarily, not conditionally, but actually mine as long as I can do the job Alexander has hired me for. The office is directly below, Alexander says, gesturing toward a narrow staircase that leads down to a heavy wooden door. There's a separate entrance for clients, but this will be more convenient for you. He's dressed more casually today, dark jeans, a navy sweater that probably costs more than most people spend on rent. But the expensive clothes don't make him seem less approachable. If anything, seeing him outside the context of last night's rescue makes him seem more real, less like some guardian angel who might disappear if I blink too hard. The job itself is varied, he continues as we walk down to the office. Administrative work, certainly, but also research, client liaison, travel coordination. I'll need you to be my eyes and ears when I'm not here, which is often. The office is exactly what I'd expected from a successful consulting firm. Polished wood, modern furniture, walls lined with books and awards. There's a desk in the outer area that I assume will be mine, positioned so I can see both the main entrance and Alexander's private office. Questions? He asks, settling behind his own desk with the easy confidence of someone who's built all of this from scratch. I have 1,000 questions, but most of them have nothing to do with work and everything to do with why he helped me, why he's trusting me with this opportunity, what kind of man rescues strangers from alleys and offers them jobs on the spot. Instead, I ask, what kind of projects will I be working on? Varied. This week, for instance, I'm consulting with a nonprofit that's struggling with donor relations. Next week, I'm flying to Chicago to help a tech startup restructure their operations. The week after that. He shrugs. Something will come up. It always does. And you travel alone? Usually. Though sometimes I need an assistant along to handle logistics, take notes, manage communications. He looks at me thoughtfully. How do you feel about travel? I love it, I say honestly. Or I think I would. I haven't had many opportunities. That may change quickly. I hope you have a passport. I do, actually, one of the few useful things that survived the wreckage of my old life. Where do you usually go? Anywhere the work takes me. Last month it was Vancouver. Before that, Dublin. Next month I'm committed to 3 weeks in various cities across Europe. Europe! I try not to let the excitement show on my face too clearly, but I think he sees it anyway because he smiles that subtle smile again. We'll start you with local projects first, he says. Get you familiar with how things work before we throw you into international travel. The first week passes in a blur of learning, computer systems, filing protocols, client preferences, Alexander's particular way of doing things. He's demanding but not unreasonable, precise but not rigid. He expects excellence but doesn't expect me to read his mind. The work itself is engaging in a way I hadn't expected. The nonprofit project involves researching donor psychology and developing new outreach strategies. The tech startup needs help understanding market positioning and competitive analysis. It's not just administrative work, it's intellectual, creative, challenging. But it's the small things that really get to me. The way Alexander makes sure there's always coffee in the machine when I arrive in the morning. How he asks if I need anything when he's going out for lunch, always returning with an extra sandwich just in case. The careful way he explains things without making me feel stupid for not knowing them already. By Friday, I'm starting to believe this might actually work out. That's when Diana Worthington walks into our office. She's exactly the kind of woman I used to imagine myself becoming someday, polished, confident, wearing a suit that probably costs more than my college textbooks. Her hair is perfect, her makeup flawless, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. Alexander, darling, she says, gliding past my desk without so much as a glance in my direction. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. I watch through the open door of his office as she perches on the edge of his desk, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. They know each other well, that much is obvious from the way she touches his arm, the way he leans back in his chair with a familiarity that speaks of history. Diana, Alexander says, and his voice has a different quality when he speaks to her. Warmer, but also more guarded. What brings you by? Can a girl visit an old friend? She laughs, but there's something calculated about it. Besides, I heard you'd hired someone new. I wanted to meet her. She turns then, looking directly at me through the doorway. Her smile doesn't waver, but something cold flickers in her eyes as she takes in my off-the-rack blouse and my second-hand blazer. You must be Grace, she says, rising gracefully from the desk. I'm Diana Worthington. Alexander and I go way back. Nice to meet you, I say, standing to shake her perfectly manicured hand. How are you finding the work? She asks, but the question feels like a trap. It must be quite an adjustment, working so closely with Alexander. He has very particular standards. I'm learning quickly, I say carefully. I'm sure you are. Her smile never falters, but her eyes continue their assessment. It's wonderful that Alexander is giving you this opportunity. Not everyone would be so charitable. The word hits like a slap, and I feel heat rise in my cheeks. Charitable. As if I'm here out of pity rather than merit, as if this job is some kind of handout rather than something I'm earning every day. Diana. Alexander's voice cuts through the tension like a blade. Grace is here because she's excellent at her job. Just as you're here because? Because I wanted to invite you to lunch, she says smoothly. Catch up on old times. I'm afraid I have a client call in 20 minutes. Tomorrow then. Or this weekend. She glances at me again, that cold smile still in place. Unless your assistant needs you to work weekends as well. There's something in the way she says assistant that makes it sound like a dirty word. Alexander notices it too. I can see it in the way his jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. My weekend plans are my own, he says coolly. As they've always been. Diana's smile finally slips just for a moment before snapping back into place. Of course. Well, I should let you get back to your work. She sweeps out as elegantly as she arrived, leaving behind a cloud of expensive perfume and uncomfortable tension. I'm sorry about that, Alexander says once she's gone. Old friend? I ask, trying to keep my voice neutral. Old something, he says dryly. Diana and I dated briefly years ago. She has difficulty accepting that briefly was intentional. I nod, pretending that information doesn't send an odd little flutter through my chest. It shouldn't matter to me who Alexander dated or when. He's my employer, nothing more, and any feelings beyond professional respect are inappropriate and probably one-sided anyway. But as I try to focus on my work for the rest of the afternoon, I can't shake Diana's words. Charitable. As if I'm some kind of project, a good deed rather than a qualified employee. That evening, alone in my apartment, I find myself second-guessing everything. The job offer that seemed too good to be true. The apartment that came with it. Alexander's kindness, which I'd interpreted as respect but which might actually be pity. Maybe Diana is right. Maybe I'm fooling myself about why I'm here. The thought keeps me awake long into the night, staring at the ceiling and wondering if I'm making a mistake by trusting this new life I'm trying to build. The doubt Diana planted grows over the weekend, fed by my own insecurities and the voice in my head that sounds disturbingly like my stepfather, the man my mother married when I was 15, who never missed an opportunity to remind me that I wasn't his real daughter, that I was lucky to have a roof over my head, that I should be grateful for whatever scraps of affection came my way. By Monday morning, I've convinced myself that Diana was right. Alexander hired me out of pity, not merit, and sooner or later he'll realize his mistake. I'm so deep in this spiral of self-doubt that I almost miss the envelope that's been slipped under my door. My name is written on it in Alexander's precise handwriting. Inside is a first-class plane ticket to Dublin, departing Thursday morning, and a note, your first international assignment if you're interested. We'll be working with the Kelly-Gon Foundation on their youth education initiative. 3 days, back Sunday evening. Let me know your decision by noon. I stare at the ticket for a full minute, my heart hammering. Dublin, Ireland. A real assignment, not charity or pity but actual work that he needs me to do. I'm downstairs and at my desk by 8:30, the ticket clutched in my hand. You're early, Alexander observes, looking up from his computer. I wanted to talk to you about Dublin. And? I'd like to go. Very much. But I need to ask you something first. He gestures to the chair across from his desk, giving me his full attention. What's that? Are you offering me this opportunity because you think I can do the job, or because you feel sorry for me? The question hangs in the air between us. Alexander studies my face for a long moment, then leans back in his chair. What brought this on? Diana. Something she said about you being charitable. His expression darkens. I see. And you believed her? I don't know what to believe. 6 months ago I was sleeping in alleys and applying for jobs at McDonald's. Now I'm being offered first-class tickets to Europe. It doesn't make sense unless… Unless what? Unless you're the kind of man who rescues strays out of some misguided sense of nobility. Alexander is quiet for so long I start to wonder if I've just talked myself out of a job. Then he stands up, walks around the desk, and perches on its edge directly in front of me. Grace, look at me. I do, reluctantly. In the past week, you've reorganized my entire filing system in a way that actually makes sense. You've researched and summarized 3 different market analyses that would have taken me hours to get through. You've handled 6 client calls with more grace and professionalism than my last assistant managed in 6 months. And you've done all of this while learning an entirely new industry from scratch. He pauses, making sure I'm really listening. I don't hire people out of charity. I can't afford to. Every person who works for me directly impacts my reputation and my ability to serve my clients effectively. If I didn't think you were capable of doing this job, and doing it well, you wouldn't be here. But the timing was fortunate for both of us. I needed someone I could trust, and you needed an opportunity. The fact that we found each other in an alley rather than through a headhunting firm doesn't diminish your qualifications or my need for your skills. Something tight in my chest begins to loosen. You really think I can handle Dublin? I think you can handle whatever I throw at you. The question is whether you believe it. I look down at the plane ticket, then back up at his face. There's something in his eyes, confidence, maybe, or respect. Whatever it is, it's not pity. I believe it, I say quietly. And I want to go to Dublin. His smile is warmer than I've ever seen it. Excellent. We'll need to brief you on the Kellygon Foundation before we leave. And you'll need appropriate business attire for the meetings. There's a boutique downtown that I've used for client wardrobes before. Consider it a business expense. Alexander. Yes? Thank you. For seeing something in me that I wasn't sure was there. It was always there, Grace. You just needed the right opportunity to show it. That afternoon, I find myself in a boutique that's so far above my usual shopping venues it might as well be on another planet. The saleswoman, Helen, treats me with the kind of respectful efficiency usually reserved for customers who don't look at price tags. Mr. Blackwood called ahead, she explains, leading me to a private fitting room. He's requested a capsule wardrobe suitable for international business travel. Professional but versatile. The clothes she brings are beautiful, well-cut blazers, silk blouses, tailored trousers and fabrics I can't even name. Everything fits perfectly, and when I look at myself in the three-way mirror, I see someone who belongs in boardrooms and first-class cabins. You have excellent bone structure, Helen observes, adjusting the shoulders of a charcoal blazer. These pieces suit you beautifully. I feel like I'm playing dress-up, I admit. Everyone does at first. But eventually the clothes stop wearing you and you start wearing them. Confidence is the best accessory. That evening, I hang my new wardrobe carefully in the small closet of my apartment, running my hands over the fine fabrics. Diana's words echo in my memory, charitable, but they have less power now. Alexander chose me for this assignment because he believes I can do it. The clothes are just tools like a laptop or a briefcase. Still, as I try on the navy dress I'll wear to our first meeting in Dublin, I can't help but wonder what my mother would think if she could see me now. She'd always believed I was capable of more than our small Tennessee town could offer, but I don't think even she imagines something like this. I wish you could see this, Mom, I whisper to my reflection. I think you'd be proud. The woman looking back at me from the mirror is poised, professional, ready for whatever comes next. She looks like someone who belongs in Alexander Blackwood's world. For the first time since Diana's visit, I'm starting to believe she might actually be me. Dublin is everything I've imagined and nothing like I expected. The city is older and more layered than anywhere I've been, with medieval churches standing next to modern office buildings, traditional pubs sharing streets with sleek boutiques. The autumn air carries the scent of rain and something indefinably ancient. Our hotel is elegant without being ostentatious, the kind of place where business travelers feel comfortable and locals wouldn't feel out of place having afternoon tea. Alexander books us separate rooms on the same floor, maintaining the professional distance that defines our relationship even as we navigate foreign cities together. The Kellygon Foundation was established 30 years ago, he explains over breakfast in the hotel restaurant. They focus on educational opportunities for at-risk youth, primarily in Ireland but with expansion plans for the UK and eventually continental Europe. I take notes while he talks, using the leather portfolio that came with my new wardrobe. The weight of it in my hands still feels foreign, but I'm getting used to playing this role, professional, competent, worthy of first-class flights and five-star hotels. Our job is to help them restructure their donor engagement strategy. They've been successful on a local level, but they're struggling to scale their operations internationally. What's our timeline? 3 meetings over 2 days. Today we'll review their current operations and financial structure. Tomorrow we'll present our preliminary recommendations. Wednesday we'll finalize the strategic plan. And then? Then we go home, and you'll help me write the most comprehensive donor engagement manual the nonprofit world has ever seen. The Kellygon Foundation offices are housed in a converted Georgian mansion in one of Dublin's more prestigious neighborhoods. Siobhan Kellygon, the founder's daughter and current director, greets us in the marble-floored foyer with the kind of genuine warmth that immediately puts me at ease. Mr. Blackwood, she says, clasping Alexander's hand in both of hers. Thank you so much for coming. We're truly excited to work with you. The pleasure is mine, Ms. Kellygon. This is my associate, Grace Moore. The introduction sends a little thrill through me. Associate, not assistant. Not charity case or rescued stray, but colleague. Grace, wonderful to meet you, Siobhan says, and her handshake is firm, respectful. I've heard excellent things about your work from several mutual contacts. I manage not to look surprised, though I wonder who these mutual contacts might be and what they could possibly know about my work. Instead, I smile and thank her, falling into step beside Alexander as she leads us through the Foundation's offices. The tour reveals an organization that's successful but growing beyond its original structure. Files are stacked on every available surface, volunteers answer phones that ring constantly, and the energy is enthusiastic but chaotic. We've been so focused on the work itself that we've rather neglected the business side of things, Siobhan admits as we settle in her office. My father started this foundation with pure intentions and no business plan whatsoever. That's not uncommon, Alexander assures her. Passion and vision are excellent starting points, but sustainable growth requires infrastructure. For the next 4 hours, we dive deep into the Foundation's operations. I take detailed notes, ask clarifying questions, and gradually realize that I'm not just observing this meeting, I'm participating in it. When Siobhan mentions challenges with donor retention, I find myself suggesting database solutions I'd researched for another client. When she describes struggles with volunteer coordination, I'm able to recommend scheduling software that might help. Alexander doesn't just allow these contributions, he builds on them, weaving my suggestions into the larger strategic picture he's developing. By the end of the day, I feel like a genuine member of the team rather than someone just along for the ride. That went very well, Alexander says as we walk back to the hotel through Dublin's early evening bustle. Your insights about the volunteer management system were particularly helpful. Really? I wasn't sure if I was overstepping. Not at all. That's exactly why I brought you along, to think through problems from angles I might miss. We stop at a traditional pub for dinner, settling into a corner booth away from the evening crowd. The atmosphere is warm and convivial, all dark wood and soft lighting, the kind of place where business conversations feel natural rather than forced. Can I ask you something? I say after we've ordered. Of course. Siobhan mentioned hearing about my work from mutual contacts. What did she mean by that? Alexander takes a sip of his beer, considering his answer. I may have made a few calls before we left London. Asked some colleagues about their experiences with young professionals in the field. You were checking my references? I was building your reputation. There's a difference. I frown, not following. Grace, you're extremely talented, but you're also completely unknown in this industry. That's a disadvantage in a field where relationships and recommendations carry enormous weight. So I've been introducing you, carefully, strategically, to people who might be valuable contacts for you in the future. You've been networking for me? I've been investing in your career. The same way I'd invest in any valuable team member. Something warm spreads through my chest, and I have to look down at my hands to hide how much this means to me. He's not just giving me work experience, he's actively building a professional future for me. Why? I ask quietly. Because talent like yours shouldn't be wasted. And because. He pauses, seeming to choose his words carefully. Because I remember what it was like to be young and talented and completely on my own in this industry. The difference is, I had family money to fall back on while I figured things out. You don't have that luxury. It's the most personal thing he's ever shared with me, and I'm struck by the realization that despite all the time we've spent together, I know very little about Alexander's background. He operates with the confidence of someone born to privilege, but there are depths beneath that polished surface I'm only now beginning to glimpse. Thank you, I say, and the words feel inadequate for what he's giving me. Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see what I'm expecting from you tomorrow. But his smile takes any sting out of the warning, and I find myself smiling back. For the first time since Diana's visit, I feel completely confident in my place here. Not as a charity case or a rescued stray, but as a professional building a career alongside someone who recognizes her worth. That night, as I lie in my hotel bed listening to the distant sounds of Dublin's nightlife, I think about how much my life has changed in just 2 weeks. I have work that challenges me, a home that's truly mine, and a future that stretches ahead with possibilities I never dared imagine. But more than that, I have something I've never had before, a mentor who believes in me enough to bet his professional reputation on my success. It's a responsibility I don't take lightly, and one I'm determined to prove worthy of. The next morning brings our presentation to the Kellygone Foundation's Board of Directors. I've spent half the night reviewing our recommendations, making sure I understand not just what we're proposing but why each element is important. Alexander and I work together seamlessly, tag-teaming different sections of the presentation. When questions arise that fall within my areas of research, he defers to me smoothly, establishing my expertise without making it obvious that he's building my credibility. By the time we leave their offices Wednesday afternoon, we have a signed contract for a 6-month consulting engagement and invitations to present our model to 3 other organizations in London. "Well done," Alexander says as our taxi winds through Dublin traffic toward the airport. "That was exceptional work. I couldn't have done it without you." "No, but I couldn't have done it without you either. That's what makes a good partnership." Partnership. The word settles into my mind like a seed finding fertile ground. On the plane home, as I watch the Irish countryside disappear below us, I realize that somewhere between leaving London and returning to it, something fundamental has shifted. I'm no longer the desperate girl Alexander rescued from an alley. I'm becoming the professional woman he saw potential in from the beginning. And for the first time in longer than I can remember, I'm genuinely excited about what comes next. 3 weeks pass in a whirlwind of successful projects and growing confidence. The Kellygone Foundation engagement is progressing beautifully, and word of our work is spreading through London's non-profit community. I find myself fielding calls from potential clients, taking meetings that Alexander trusts me to handle independently, building the kind of professional network I'd only dreamed about 6 months ago. But it's not just my career that's evolving. The dynamic between Alexander and me has shifted in ways I'm afraid to examine too closely. We work late into the evening more often than not, sharing takeout dinners and wine while we strategize over client proposals. Our conversations range far beyond business, books, travel, the peculiar challenges of building a life that exists entirely on your own terms. I learn that he studied at Oxford but dropped out in his final year to care for his dying father. That he built his consulting firm from nothing, working 18-hour days for the first 5 years until it became sustainable. That he's never been married, though not for lack of opportunity. "I've never met anyone who understood the demands of this work," he tells me one evening as we review contracts in his office. "Building something from scratch requires a level of dedication that most people find excessive." "Lonely, you mean?" He looks up from the document he's reviewing, something unreadable flickering across his features. "Yes, I suppose that's exactly what I mean." There's a moment, brief, charged with possibility, where we simply look at each other across the polished wood of his desk. I see something in his eyes that makes my pulse quicken, something that has nothing to do with business strategies or client relationships. Then his phone rings, breaking the spell, and we both retreat into the safety of professional distance. But the moment stays with me, replaying in my mind as I lie in bed that night. Alexander Blackwood is brilliant, successful, devastatingly attractive, and kind in ways that have nothing to do with his rescue of me from that alley. He's also my employer, my mentor, and quite possibly the only person in the world who could destroy the life I'm trying to build with a single change of heart. Getting involved with him would be professional suicide and personal catastrophe rolled into one irresistible package. Which doesn't stop me from wanting it anyway. The next morning brings a phone call that changes everything. "Grace, darling," a woman's voice purrs through the phone. "This is Diana Worthington. I was wondering if you might have time for lunch today." My stomach drops. "I'm sorry, but I'm quite busy with." "Oh, I think you'll want to make time for this conversation." Shall we say 1 o'clock at Claridge's? I'll make a reservation. She hangs up before I can refuse, leaving me staring at the phone with growing dread. Whatever Diana wants to discuss over lunch at one of London's most exclusive hotels, it isn't going to be pleasant. I tell Alexander the First have a personal appointment and leave the office at 12:30, my nerves stretching tighter with every step toward Mayfair. Claridge's restaurant is exactly as intimidating as I'd expected, all crystal chandeliers and hushed conversations, the kind of place where your outfit is evaluated before your reservation is confirmed. Diana is already seated at a corner table, impeccably dressed in a way that makes my carefully chosen blazer feel like costume jewelry. She stands to air kiss my cheeks as if we're old friends, the gesture as false as her smile. "Grace, you look well," she says as we settle into our seats. "Alexander is clearly taking good care of you." "What do you want, Diana?" Straight to the point. I admire that. She signals the waiter for champagne without asking if I want any. "I want to help you avoid making a terrible mistake." "Which would be?" "Thinking that whatever is developing between you and Alexander has any chance of lasting." Heat floods my cheeks. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you? The way you look at him, the way he's suddenly bringing you along to international meetings, the cozy dinners that run until midnight." She sips her champagne delicately. "It's all quite transparent, really. My relationship with Alexander is purely professional. For now, perhaps. But we both know it won't stay that way. You're young, grateful, probably a little infatuated with your rescuer. And Alexander, well, Alexander has always had a weakness for wounded birds." The words hit their target with surgical precision. "That's not. Isn't it? Tell me, Grace, what do you think happens when Alexander gets bored? When the novelty of your gratitude wears off and he remembers that he belongs with someone from his own world?" I force myself to meet her gaze steadily. "Why do you care?" "Because I've known Alexander for 15 years. I've watched him cycle through relationships with women who thought they understood what they were getting into. Brilliant women, accomplished women, women with their own fortunes and social connections. And eventually they all discover the same thing. Which is that Alexander Blackwood doesn't actually want an equal partner. He wants someone who needs him, someone whose entire world revolves around his generosity. Until he doesn't anymore." She leans forward, her voice dropping to a sympathetic whisper. "You're building your career on his foundation, Grace. What happens to your professional reputation when he moves on to the next damaged girl who needs saving?" The question lands like a physical blow because it's the one I've been trying not to ask myself. Everything I have, my job, my apartment, my growing network of professional contacts, comes through Alexander. If our relationship sours, I don't just lose a boyfriend. I lose everything. "I can see you're thinking about it," Diana continues. "Good. You should be. Because there's still time to extract yourself gracefully, to build something independent before you become too entangled to escape. And I suppose you have suggestions for how I might do that." "As it happens, I do." She reaches into her purse and withdraws a business card. "Marcus Webb runs a boutique consulting firm that specializes in nonprofit development. He's been looking for someone with your particular combination of skills and experience." I take the card reluctantly, noting the prestigious address and the quality of the cardstock. "You've already spoken to him about me?" I may have mentioned that I knew a talented young woman who might be available for the right opportunity. The salary is excellent, the work is meaningful, and Marcus has no history of confusing professional relationships with personal ones. She stands, leaving money on the table for the champagne I never touched. "Think about it, Grace. You're clearly intelligent enough to recognize a good opportunity when you see one. Don't let sentiment cloud your judgment." She sweeps out as elegantly as she arrived, leaving me alone with my doubts and Marcus Webb's business card. I sit there for a long time, turning the card over in my hands while Diana's words echo in my mind. Is she right? Am I building my life on quicksand, trusting my future to a man whose interest in me might be nothing more than a temporary fascination with playing savior? The walk back to the office takes twice as long as it should, my feet dragging with every step. By the time I reach our building, I've made a decision that feels both necessary and devastating. I need to know where I stand with Alexander before I risk everything on assumptions and hopes. I find him in his office, reviewing client files with the focused intensity that I've learned means he's solving complex problems in his head. He looks up when I knock, and his smile is warm, genuine, completely unguarded. "How was your appointment?" "Fine. Alexander, can we talk?" Something in my tone makes him set down his pen and give me his full attention. "Of course. What's on your mind?" I close the door behind me and take the chair across from his desk, trying to find the courage to ask the questions that could destroy everything. "I need to know something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Always. Why did you really hire me?" He frowned slightly. "I thought we'd settled this. You're excellent at your job, and I needed someone I could trust." "But why me specifically? Out of all the qualified candidates you could have chosen, why the homeless girl from the alley?" The silence stretches between us, heavy with implications. I watch Alexander's expression shift from confusion to something more guarded, and my heart sinks. "Grace, where is this coming from? Just answer the question. Please." He's quiet for a long moment, and when he finally speaks, his voice is careful, measured. "I hired you because you impressed me. Your qualifications, your intelligence, your resilience in the face of circumstances that would have broken most people." "That's not what I'm asking." "Then what are you asking?" I take a deep breath, steeling myself for his answer. "I'm asking if you hired me because you felt sorry for me. If this whole thing, the job, the apartment bringing me to Dublin, is some kind of elaborate charity project." "Absolutely not." "Then why won't you look at me when you say that?" Our eyes meet, and in that moment I see the truth he's trying to hide. It's not pity exactly, but it's not purely professional either. There's something softer there, something protective and caring that has nothing to do with my qualifications and everything to do with the scared girl he found in that alley. "I see," I say quietly, my worst fears confirmed. "Grace, it's not what you think. Isn't it?" I stand up, Marcus Webb's business card burning a hole in my pocket. "I need some time to think about things." "What kind of things?" "My future. Whether what I'm building here is real or just an extension of your rescue complex." The words come out harsher than I intended, and I see them hit their mark in the way Alexander flinches. But I can't take them back now, can't pretend I don't need answers to questions that will determine the rest of my life. "I'll be in early tomorrow," I say, moving toward the door. "We can discuss this more then." "Grace, wait." But I'm already leaving, fleeing to the safety of my apartment before I can say something that will make this situation even worse. That night, I call Marcus Webb. The interview with Marcus Webb takes place in a glass-walled office in Canary Wharf, all modern lines and spectacular views of the Thames. Marcus himself is younger than I'd expected, mid-30s, sharply dressed, with the kind of aggressive confidence that screams ambition. "Diana spoke very highly of your work," he says, settling behind his desk with a predatory smile. "Particularly your recent success with the Kellygon Foundation." "Thank you." "I'll be direct, Grace. I need someone who can hit the ground running on complex projects with minimal supervision. Someone who understands both the business and the emotional aspects of nonprofit work." He outlines the position: senior consultant, significant autonomy, a salary that's 30% higher than what Alexander pays me. The work sounds challenging and meaningful, exactly the kind of career I'd imagined building when I first started at Blackwood Industries. "There is one concern," Marcus continues, leaning back in his chair. "Your current arrangement. Working so closely with Alexander Blackwood, living in company housing. It creates questions about professional boundaries." My cheeks burn. I can assure you that my relationship with Mr. Blackwood is entirely professional. "I'm sure it is. But perception matters in this business, particularly for women. Clients need to trust that you're here because of your abilities, not because of other considerations." The implication is clear and insulting, but I force myself to remain calm. If you're concerned about my qualifications, not at all. Your work speaks for itself. I'm simply suggesting that a clean break from your current situation might be beneficial for both of us. He offers me the position on the spot, with a start date 2 weeks from Monday. It's everything I should want: independence, respect, a chance to build something that belongs entirely to me. So why does accepting it feel like cutting off a limb? I ask for 24 hours to consider the offer, though we both know I'm going to take it. Walking away from this opportunity would be professional suicide, and Marcus Webb's firm represents exactly the kind of career trajectory I'd been working toward. But as I ride the tube back to the office, I can't shake the image of Alexander's face when I'd accused him of having a rescue complex. He'd looked genuinely hurt, as if my words had caught him completely off guard. Maybe because they had. I find him in the conference room, spreadsheets and laptops covering every available surface. He's working on the Kellygon proposal, and I can see from the complexity of the documents that he's been at it for hours. "You missed our 4 o'clock, he says without looking up. "I know. I'm sorry. Client meeting tomorrow at 9. "I'll need you to," he stops mid-sentence, finally raising his head to look at me. Whatever he sees in my expression makes him go very still. "You've made a decision." "It's not a question. I've been offered another position. Senior consultant at Webb & Associates. Marcus Webb." His voice is flat, emotionless. "Diana's doing, I assume." "Does it matter?" "No, I suppose it doesn't." He closes his laptop with deliberate care. "When do you start?" 2 weeks from Monday. If I accept. If. I sit down across from him, suddenly exhausted. "Alexander, I need you to be honest with me about something." "Haven't I always been?" "Not about this. Not about why you really helped me." He's quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching my face. When he finally speaks, his voice is softer than I've ever heard it. "Do you want the truth, Grace? The complete, unvarnished truth?" "Yes. I helped you because I saw something in that alley that I recognized. Not just fear or desperation, but the look of someone who'd been fighting so hard for so long that they'd forgotten why they were fighting. I'd worn that same expression for most of my 20s. He stands up, moving to the window that overlooks the street where we first met. "I hired you because you were qualified, yes, but also because I thought we might understand each other. 2 people who'd learned to build walls so high that everyone else looked like a stranger." "And the apartment?" "The clothes, the opportunities. Practical necessities that became something more. I won't lie to you, Grace. Somewhere along the way, this stopped being about business for me." My heart hammers against my ribs. "What are you saying?" He turns to face me, and the vulnerability in his expression takes my breath away. "I'm saying that you're right. I didn't hire you purely for professional reasons. But not because I felt sorry for you. Because I was half in love with you before you'd been working here a week." The confession hangs between us like a bridge I'm terrified to cross. Everything I've wanted to hear and everything I've been afraid of, wrapped up in words that could change everything or destroy it completely. "Alexander, I know it's inappropriate. I know it compromises everything we've built professionally. And I know you have every right to walk away from this mess I've created." "Is that what you want? For me to walk away?" "What I want is irrelevant. What matters is what's best for your career, your future. And maybe Marcus Webb can give you something I can't, a professional relationship that isn't complicated by feelings that have no business existing in a workplace." I stand up, my legs unsteady but my mind suddenly perfectly clear. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course." "Diana was right about one thing. I am grateful to you, and maybe that did turn into something more. But it wasn't because I confused gratitude with love, or because I have some kind of savior complex." I step closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "It was because you're brilliant and kind and you see possibilities in people that they can't see in themselves. Because you make me want to be worthy of the faith you have in me. Because when I'm with you, I feel like the person I was always meant to become. Grace. I don't want safe and uncomplicated Alexander. I want this, messy and inappropriate and probably completely inadvisable. I want to build something with you that's both professional and personal, even if it means taking risks that terrify me. What about Webb's offer? What about it? I'm not interested in building a career on the foundation of other people's assumptions about my integrity. If I'm going to succeed, it's going to be on my own terms, with people who value my abilities regardless of who I choose to love. The word love slips out before I can stop it, hanging in the air between us like a confession I wasn't ready to make. Alexander's eyes widen slightly. Grace, are you saying? I'm saying that I'm tired of being afraid. Of everything. Of taking chances, of trusting people, of wanting things that seem too good to be true. I reach up, touching his face gently. I'm saying that I choose you if you'll have me. Both professionally and personally. His answer comes in the form of a kiss, soft at first, tentative, then deeper as weeks of restrained attraction finally find expression. When we break apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rests against mine. This is going to be complicated, he murmurs. The best things usually are. We'll need ground rules. Clear boundaries between professional and personal time. Agreed. And if this doesn't work out, if we can't make it work, we need to be able to separate the business from whatever happens between us personally. Understood. He pulls back to look at me, his expression serious. Are you sure about this, Grace? Because once we cross this line, there's no going back to the way things were. I think about Diana's warnings, about Marcus Webb's offer, about all the safe and sensible choices that would keep my life neat and uncomplicated. Then I think about the man standing in front of me, who saw something worth saving in a desperate girl in an alley and helped her become someone worth believing in. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. 6 months later, I'm standing in the bathroom of our hotel suite in Prague, staring at my reflection in the mirror and trying to calm my nerves. The dress Alexander chose for tonight is stunning, deep blue silk that brings out my eyes, with a neckline that's elegant without being conservative. You look beautiful, he says from the doorway, his own reflection appearing behind mine in the mirror. I look terrified. That's natural. It's an important evening. Important is an understatement. Tonight, we're attending the European Nonprofit Excellence Awards, where Blackwood Industries has been nominated for Consulting Firm of the Year. It's the kind of recognition that can transform a successful business into an industry leader. And if we win, it will largely be due to the innovative approaches we've developed over the past 6 months. Approaches that I've been instrumental in creating. Grace. Alexander's hands settle on my shoulders, warm and reassuring. You belong here. You've earned every accolade that comes our way tonight. I lean back against him, drawing comfort from his solid presence. It's taken me months to truly believe that my success isn't just a reflection of his generosity, but tonight feels like a test of everything we've built together. What if they ask about our relationship? Then we tell them the truth. That we're partners in every sense of the word. The award ceremony is held in a converted palace, all soaring ceilings and crystal chandeliers. The nonprofit world's elite mingle over champagne and canapes, and I recognize faces from industry magazines and conference programs. Grace Moore, a familiar voice calls out, and I turn to see Siobhan Kellygon approaching with a warm smile. How lovely to see you again. Siobhan, wonderful to see you too. How is the foundation? Thriving, thanks in no small part to your strategic recommendations. We've expanded our donor base by 40% since implementing your database system. She draws me into conversation with several other nonprofit directors, all of whom know my work and respect my contributions. As the evening progresses, I realize that I'm no longer being introduced as Alexander's assistant or even Alexander's associate. I'm Grace Moore, senior consultant, recognized in my own right for the value I bring to our clients. When our category is announced, Alexander takes my hand as we wait for the results. His palm is slightly damp, the only sign that he's as nervous as I am. And the winner of this year's Consulting Firm of the Year award goes to Blackwood Industries. The applause is thunderous, and Alexander kisses my cheek before standing to accept the award. His speech is gracious and professional, acknowledging our clients and highlighting the innovative approaches that set us apart. But it's what he says at the end that takes my breath away. Finally, I want to thank my partner, Grace Moore, whose vision and dedication have transformed not only our business practices but our entire approach to client relationships. This award belongs as much to her as it does to me. Later, at the after-party in our hotel's rooftop bar, I find myself on the terrace overlooking Prague's glittering skyline. The night air is cool against my skin, and the sound of celebration drifts out from inside. Escaping the crowds? Alexander asks, joining me at the railing. Just taking a moment to appreciate how surreal this all feels. Surreal how? I turn to face him, this man who saved me from more than just a dangerous alley. A year ago, I was sleeping rough and applying for minimum wage jobs. Tonight, I'm being recognized as one of the top consultants in Europe. Sometimes I wonder if I'm going to wake up and find out it was all a dream. It's not a dream, Grace. It's what happens when talent meets opportunity and hard work. And luck. Don't forget luck. I don't believe in luck. I believe in choices. He moves closer, his voice dropping to that intimate tone that never fails to send shivers down my spine. You chose to trust me when every instinct told you not to. You chose to take risks that terrified you. You chose to build something extraordinary instead of settling for something safe. I chose you. And I chose you. Every day I choose you. He reaches into his jacket pocket, withdrawing a small velvet box that makes my heart stop entirely. Alexander. I know we agreed to take things slowly. I know there are still challenges ahead, still boundaries to navigate. But I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you in every sense of the word. He drops to one knee right there on the terrace, with Prague spread out below us like a fairy tale backdrop. Grace Moore, will you marry me? The ring is perfect, an elegant solitaire that catches the light from the city below. But it's not the ring that makes me cry or the romantic setting or even the culmination of this perfect evening. It's the look in Alexander's eyes, the same look I saw that first night when he appeared in the alley like an answer to prayers I'd been too proud to say. The look that says he sees me completely, not as a project or a charity case or even just a successful professional, but as a woman worthy of love in all its messy, complicated, beautiful forms. Yes, I whisper, then louder, yes, absolutely yes. He slides the ring onto my finger with hands that are slightly unsteady, then stands to kiss me while Prague glitters around us like a promise of all the adventures still to come. When we break apart, I'm laughing and crying at the same time, overwhelmed by how dramatically my life has changed and how right this moment feels. I love you, I tell him, the words coming easier now that I've had months to practice them. I love you too. Both the woman you were when I found you and the woman you've become since. They're the same person, you know. I just needed someone to believe in her long enough for her to believe in herself. Then we're even, he says, pulling me close. Because I needed someone to remind me that success without connection is just expensive loneliness. Inside, the party continues, but we stay on the terrace for a while longer, planning our future and marveling at the journey that brought us here. Tomorrow, we'll return to London and the business we've built together. We'll navigate the challenges of being both partners and spouses, both professionals and lovers. But tonight, we're just Alexander and Grace, two people who found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and chose to build something extraordinary together. Tonight, we're proof that sometimes the best kind of love is the kind that changes you completely while helping you become exactly who you were always meant to be.